Welcome to Kosm, a podcast where science meets art. Kosm is a bundle of fibers that connects the left half of the brain with the right. According to conventional neuroscience, the left half of the brain is more logical and mathematical, and the right half is more artistic and creative. Although modern literature challenges this concept, the reason I named it Kosm is because the theme of this podcast is interdisciplinary thinking. I strongly believe that the future lies in taking a fundamental concept from one field and applying it to another, leading to new ideas that transcend the confines of a single discipline. My name is Dr. Suneet Zadav. I'm an assistant professor in anatomy and a musician who's currently pursuing a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, trying to understand how music affects the brain. While reading the latest research on this topic, I was fascinated by how much we do not know yet. And the podcast is my idea of trying to deliver whatever I read to an audience that is excited to learn more about the human brain and body, but in simpler words, so they feel enabled to live a healthier life. Lastly, being part of an independent music community, I would further love to use this podcast to help indie artists perform their upcoming art, in the hope that it reaches a wider audience. Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. This is episode 0. My name is Dr. Suneet. I'm an assistant professor in anatomy, and I also play music every now and then. So some people call that a singer-songwriter. I am here today to try out a trial episode called episode 0. And before I start the podcast, I just wanted to do an episode where I get to try out the lights, the angles, the sound, and reach to my primary audience, which is medical students. So I had my friend, Dr. Prateek, who's come down to India for 10 days. He's an orthopedic surgeon in the UK. He's worked in India for a while, and now he's working there. And a lot of the medical students wanted me to address what it means to be a doctor outside of India. There's a lot of stuff happening in India right now. There's too much competition. There have been episodes of violence. A lot of people are complaining about not having work life and study life, balance, etc. So a lot of students wanted me to have somebody who can throw some light on these things. And that's why I decided we got to have somebody like this over and talk about it. We are in the middle of a transition in the Indian medical education system right now, and we haven't really been able to understand what works and what doesn't. So it's a very difficult and confusing time for medical educators like myself too. So hopefully with these insights, I could incorporate some of the cool things that people from other medical institutes are doing into my education, and hopefully in the long run in the medical education system here in India. And at the same time, also appreciate the cool things that we are doing better than them, because I'm sure there's a few of that as well. So we have somebody who's going to talk about all of that. And I do not want to be asking the questions. I needed a student representative. So I have one of my first students at the current institute where I teach, who is going to be doing all the question asking. And she's a very interdisciplinary person herself. She's a front woman of the college band, Placebo Shots. And she's in final year right now, and she's trying to balance both of these things. So I thought she was the perfect person to be asking all the questions as a representative of the students out there. So without further ado, I'm going to switch the camera to the second angle and have you guys check out the guests on the podcast. Please give it up for Shivangi Krishna and Dr. Prateek Joshi. So guys, welcome, and thank you for bearing with me. I understand that the temperatures are not very suitable, but this is the best we could do on a homely budget. And the first thing I want to ask you is, of course, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what exactly has got you on this table. What motivates you to really be talking about? So we start with Shivangi. Shivangi, tell me a little bit about yourself, and let's hear it.
So I happen to be a final year student. I was in the first ever batch of our college, and Suneet sir happened to be one of the nicest people who felt more like a senior to us.
You gotta say that.
No, it was very true. We really did feel like you were a senior.
She had to pass final year as well.
Yeah. I like teaching. I like music. These are things that I would like to pursue in the future alongside my medical career. I think that's about it about me.
Okay, so my name is Prateek, and I finished my orthopedic training back in 2020 in India, and then I finished a couple of years of working in India in Pune, and then I moved across to Manchester in the United Kingdom. And thanks a lot, Sunit, for inviting me. Thank you,
Pleasure,
Shivangi,
pleasure.
for
Pleasure.
getting us together and helping us out with this.
Probably a good time to say you need to come a little closer to the mic as
Right.
well.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
assuming I'm close enough for comfort.
Yeah.
So why I'm here is because, like my two friends here, I also share a passion for teaching, and I mean, I like music, but I'm not really as good as either of these two people here. But then, that being said, something which has always played on my mind is that if you want an institution or a set of students to progress, there must be an unhindered flow of information from batch to batch, from senior to junior, from teacher to student, and so on. And I hope that is something we can achieve in this podcast.
I certainly hope so. For those who probably will not watch the entire video, because that's how the world works these days, I'd like to basically just have you enunciate 4 points, which would kind of summarize everything already. The 4 points being, what is a good thing about the Indian medical education system or the healthcare system? What is a bad thing about the Indian medical healthcare system? And then what is a good thing about the UK health system? And what is the worst thing about the UK health system? So let's go.
Okay, so off the top of my head, a good thing about the Indian medical system is the phenomenal amount of exposure that you get in terms of being exposed to different kinds of patients, different kinds of situations, and people from all walks of life. And not only does that translate into more training opportunities for a young doctor, but also it translates into better time management skills, better delegation, better teamwork, and I don't think these are things which can be taught formally in any course. These are things which have to be done by operant conditioning, which is learning by doing. And so the more you do, the more you learn. On the other hand, of course, the bad thing about the Indian setup, unfortunately, is, as we are all seeing, a lot of violence and burnouts amongst junior doctors, especially the ones in postgraduate training, and that is something which we definitely need to address as a community and not as just legislation by the government. We need to step up as a community and help them out.
Beautiful.
In terms of what is nice about the UK healthcare system is everything is very protocolized and everything is very standardized. So the standards of care are equivalent or parallel across the entire country, which makes it a very seamless experience for patients throughout the length and breadth of the country. And what I would say is not good, or something which I would say we are doing better than people abroad, is that our training is extremely intensive, and so it prepares you for everything. When you've been through the length and breadth of difficulties and back, you as an individual are prepared and equipped to handle any kind of a scenario, which I feel is something that very few healthcare systems can give you.
Wow. There's this line which says that difficult times create strong men and women. Strong men and women create easy times, and easy times create weak men and women. So there's something, I think it's Aristotle or something. I'm not very good with this. Keeps on coming up on my Instagram.
Yeah.
So Shivangi, you are kind of at the beginning of your medical journey, because you're in final year, but there's nothing final about it. The actual struggle starts after your final year gets over, next, and all of those things. So the kind of person that you are, you're very versatile, and you want to also pursue other things like singing, for example, maybe being a part of a band, maybe recording music, etc. So my first question is, are you going to be staying in India for post-grad and then going abroad, or are you going to be staying in India throughout, or are you going to basically just switch the country and leave elsewhere and maybe find a better work-life balance? What are your plans?
So I plan on pursuing my post-graduation in India.
Okay.
I
Just going to
would-
get this close, okay?
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah.
We'll just keep on changing it. Yeah.
Alright. So I was planning on doing my medical post-grad I'm hoping to get a surgical branch. I want to do it in India, and then once I have done my postgrad, I would like to move out, probably for a better lifestyle, more work-life balance.
Wow. Okay. So that brings a very interesting question that a couple of students have asked, which is, would you rather do your post graduation in India and then go abroad, like Dr. Prateek did, or would you start training in your undergraduate days for a postgraduate course in the US or UK and then move over there for post graduation? So could you throw some light on that?
Can I take the
And
mic?
feel free
Yeah.
to rotate the mic around until
So-
it falls off.
Okay, so I think that depends on what exactly your long-term aims in life are.
Okay.
Because if you do plan to come back to India to work or to settle, then possibly doing your post-graduation in India and then moving abroad for further experience makes a lot more sense than for someone who does plan to switch their country entirely because of, say, family ties, or because, as Shivangi said, something about work-life balance. So it may make sense to move earlier if you plan to stay there longer. And if you do plan to come back, then you're already in this system, might as well finish your PG and then get your experience abroad. This is quite broad because a lot of people have different outlooks, and a lot of these things are interpersonal and depending on your own family situation, your life situation, finances, and a whole gamut of other things. But yeah, off the top of my head, yeah.
Cool. So you decided not to pursue post graduation abroad because you knew that even if you go abroad, you're going to come back at some point of time.
Yes,
is it?
absolutely, yeah.
And if somebody, for some reason, thinks that they do not belong here and they would rather go in a more quieter place where laws are obeyed a bit more and people get into trouble less often, stuff like that, basically. Stuff that, I mean, an environment where people are a little more afraid of the people governing them. There are certain people that feel like that. There's a lot of people who do not like to be here because of the fact that people feel threatened, that there could be somebody getting manhandled, somebody getting beaten up in a situation that, as we've seen in a couple of media reports earlier. So people like that, if they decide that they want to just go and they've got some family over there and they've got a support system on the other side of the world, for them you would suggest starting away in their, starting to prep in their undergraduate days and aiming towards a post-graduation there.
Yes, why not? Because if you are planning on a long-term career in another country, the earlier you start it, the better
Makes
off
sense.
you are. If you are planning, of course, to come back here, then you can always sort of titrate those options up and down depending on what it is you plan to do.
Great. So Shivangi, you said you want to do your post-graduation here, probably in surgery, and go there for a while and come back.
Yeah.
Right. So it would be great to have a conversation on how you did it, so
Yep.
Shivangi can learn from it. And I'm sure there's people from the audience who actually fall more in her category than people who want to move out permanently.
I guess,
So
yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about how you achieved this journey and how you got
Well-
the job over there? What did you need on your CV to
Right.
get noticed, etc.?
I think we have a couple of questions on this as well. So
Right.
once we get into this, I think we will end up ticking off a couple of questions. So I'm glad you brought it up right now.
Right.
So when you do end up moving abroad, a lot of things decide what you're going to do and what you're going to need when you move abroad. On a very general principle, you need to be registered as a doctor in the country that you plan to move abroad. So when you want to go to the US, there is their exam called the US Medical Licensing Examination, which is USMLE. The Canadian examination is called MCCQE, which is the Medical Council of Canada Qualifying Examination or something like that. In the UK, at the moment, what we have is the PLAB, which is the Professional and Linguistics Assessment Board, whereas I believe from the end of 2024 or the start of 2025, what we're going to have is the UK MLA, which is the United Kingdom Medical Licensing Examination. So you need to pass one of these examinations to be a registered doctor in that particular country. Once you've done that, if you are already in possession of qualification here, which means you have some amount of specialty experience in that field, then what you need to do is also finish their specialty examinations for that country. For example, for myself or Shivangi, a few years down the line, when she becomes a surgeon, she'll have to finish her membership of the Royal College of Surgeons, which is MRCS. And once she's done that, she's recognized as a surgeon in the United Kingdom. Similarly, if you want to move down south to Australia, it is the MRACS, which is the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons. So, long story short, you should clear the exam which lets you be a doctor, and clear the exam which makes you a surgeon. Similarly, if there's someone who wants to be a physician, the same thing, MRCP, member of Royal College of Physicians, so on and so forth. I believe we'll be linking some resources at the end of this video.
You can check out the link in bio. We've bundled up a couple of links for separate journeys, and you can just click on those links and get to know more, because we cannot discuss everything here. And I think this is the time when I say that please subscribe and press the bell notification, all of that stuff that I usually forget to say, but do it if you think that this kind of information is going to help you and your mates and your friends. So yeah, go press that bell icon wherever it is in that corner over there.
Also, I think Dr. Sunit will be linking our contact information at the end of the video. So if anyone wants any help in specifics, you're free to reach out. Always happy to help. So yeah, that is something we can do. So long story short is the medical registration examination, then the specialty examination, and then it goes on to looking for jobs, which is an entirely different gamut altogether. You're also in a better position if you have a couple of publications, a few quality improvement or audit projects, as we call them. They're all the rage nowadays. And apart from that, of course, experience in that particular specialty helps. So when you finish your surgical residency here in India, you will have 3 to 4 years of specialty surgical experience, which will work in your favor. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, that was very insightful.
It's actually nice that we brought it up right now, because this takes off bits and pieces from other questions.
Exactly.
And we can always loop back to this when we actually come to those questions. Very nice.
Yeah. So a couple of people, if you would leave the video right now, or if you would stop listening right now, please do not forget to click on the links below. That would be a more a streamlined approach towards each of these things that we mentioned. This was a very generalized introductory kind of a thing. And now I think it's time to just get back to specific questions one by one. A couple of questions were the same, so we linked them together. A couple of questions were extremely broad. There was a question, how to crack PLAB. That's like me asking, bro, how do I live my life? It's not that easy. We got to get into so it has to be a little more streamlined. But you can check out the resources we've linked. And I'm sure that slowly, if there's a playlist, you can just go stepwise. And can we all just take a moment of silence and appreciate the internet for YouTube playlists, because they've really sorted my life, man.
Yeah.
Somebody else just organizing an entire pathway for me, a trajectory that I can kind of walk on slowly. So sure, you can do that. So Shiva, let's just start with some of the questions.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Let's go for it.
So one of the first few questions that we have is, what is the pathway to surgical branches in countries like US?
Okay, so pathway to surgical branches in the US, this is something which is entirely a different kind of a conversation. Hopefully later down the podcast, we'll probably get someone who's also trained in the US.
Please do.
Yeah, who will probably be in a better position than I am to talk about this. That being said, the rough principle does remain the same, which is crack the licentiate examination, which is your USMLE, and I believe you can go on to your residency following that. So that is something you can do.
Cool. Just one quick question. These exams, these US and UK licensing exams, would it be a generalized statement to say that they do test your clinically oriented medical knowledge more than your theoretical knowledge? Or it's nothing like that?
I would take a midway option and say that they test your clinical application of your theoretical knowledge.
That's good,
so they may ask you questions about established protocols. They may ask you questions about clinical signs and symptoms. They may also ask you questions which stem back to your first and second year knowledge and help you sort of connect what you read in pathology in second year, anatomy in first year, all the way to an intraoperative finding in your final MBBS. So they are pretty broad. So I would say clinical application, something like what you have in the applied anatomy boxes in the end. So those that for anyone watching who's in their phase one, it's phase one, right? Yeah.
It's called
So
phase one.
We are all from
It's
the first
just
MBBS.
a phase. It's just a phase.
Well,
Yeah.
some
But
phase.
hey, so this means do not forget what I teach you. I'm shouting my lungs out in these histology practicals and no one's paying attention. They're like, why is he dancing around so much? Because I want to let you know that it should stay in your mind even 4 years later when you're giving these exams. That's why I shout. Not because I'm lonely. Maybe a little because I'm lonely. Okay.
All right. So yeah, so that is something which I believe we can bring someone else on the podcast later down the line.
Sure, sure. Oh, I'd love to make that happen. Connect
We'll
you with
make
someone.
that
Guys,
happen.
keep the mic moving, huh? Keep the mic moving.
Will do.
Yeah, chivalry's not dead. Why don't you pass the mic to the lady every time she talks? Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Cool.
So the next question here is: do foreign countries like Australia provide surgical branches to Indian medical graduates?
Yes. So very happy to say that the answer to that is a resounding yes.
Oh, awesome.
Because as we spoke about this in the first part, where we said you have to give your licentiate examination and you have to give your the specialty specific examination. So in the UK you have the membership of Royal College of Surgeons, and down under in Australia you have the membership of the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons. Once you clear those exams, which are a mix of multiple choice questions and what we call as OSCEs, which is objective structured clinical examinations, once you are done with those, what you have is kind of a recognition or a stamp that you are a surgeon in that country, and then on you are free to take up training jobs for surgery. So yes, it is definitely possible, and we have a lot of very good Asian surgeons in the UK as well as in Australia. From an orthopedic surgeon's perspective, Australia is a very good place for training in sports medicine and soft tissue surgeries around the knee and things like that. This is just me going off on a tangent because, okay.
Why not? Why not?
Why
I mean,
not, yeah.
and a true tangent would be if I start talking in an Australian accent. I'm not really good at it, but I could, I could just do it.
Yeah.
Ganglionic liar. Yeah. Inner ganglionic and outer ganglionic liar.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Next,
Back to
sorry.
the point, yes.
Stick to the script, Sunil. Stick to the script.
All right. Let's go.
So
Yeah.
the next question I think I would also relate to, being students who have opted for a deemed college in our undergrad, what do you think there are any financial aids or scholarships available for people who want to pursue a postgrad abroad?
Right. This is something which I myself also thought about when I was moving abroad, because everyone thinks about the finances of moving countries. Now, the good thing here is that the postgraduate training system, or the specialty training as we call it in the UK, is quite different from what we have over here. So here you have a single specific college to which you take admission. For example, Shivangi, if you decide to become a surgeon in BJ Medical College Pune, you are a student of BJ Medical College Pune, and you join the college, you work in the college, you pay the fees, you get paid a stipend, so on and so forth. That's how it happens here.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you go to, say, the UK and you are a part of their specialty trainee, so the training aspect of it does not have any fees. It is a training job which you get, which is paid at the level of a junior doctor's salary, which will go on increasing as you go higher up in the chain, and that's pretty much it. So it's not a question of paying a college fee, because you are an employee of a deanery, which is a regional authority for your training, and then you rotate through different hospitals as a salaried doctor.
Wow,
And
that's
then
cool,
you move. So I believe what we should think about is the initial investment in terms of the cost of these exams and the training courses, but beyond that, it is not a college and a fee system. So I guess that's some kind of good news.
But would it be recommended to go for an education loan if you're like a middle class person and you've already invested a lot in your undergraduate college? Would there be a reason to actually get a loan? And
Well,
would it be that expensive?
I mean, this is something which depends very much on the familial situation and things like that. So I'm really not sure.
Mm-hmm.
However, it all depends on what you plan to gain from that course and how sort of you plan to progress your career on that. Education loans are of course quite freely available, and it is something which can be done, definitely an option, but I don't think I am personally in the situation to advise for or against any of these things. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, this is for someone who would want to take an unconventional approach to
Right.
post-graduation. What would you suggest to a person if they want to pursue something apart from an MS or an MD for their post-graduation after their MBBS?
Right. So, just to be clear, you're asking for someone who wants to sort of go off the beaten track.
Yeah.
So, when you're going off the beaten track, of course, it is a quiet and dark place to be. But that being said,
I live there.
so apart from that, what you need to think about is, if you're not going into a standard MD/MS specialization post-graduation kind of a route, then you have accumulated a good amount of knowledge, a wealth of knowledge and experience in your MBBS. The question is, how do you want to channelize it? So, do you want to channelize it in terms of planning, management, administration, or teaching? These are
I'm going to say that again. Planning,
management,
management,
administration,
and
teaching.
Got it.
So these are four sort of avenues. Of course, there must be more, but these are four which I can think of off the top of my head. And these are places where we need specific or industry specific knowledge. So it's always better to have a doctor in the planning and management of a hospital rather than an MBA or someone who's done some kind of a non-medical management kind of a course. So you could probably take up these managerial jobs in your own hospital or in these corporate chains. When it comes to administration, I'm referring to medical officer jobs in civilian as well as the armed forces sector. That is something which you can go on. These are a mix of clinical and administrative, where you run a unit or you run a team, as well as you are sort of a serving doctor as well. And the last, of course, being teaching, where you can go back to your institute and join in a particular department as something like a teaching fellow or a clinical education fellow or a clinical research fellow. There could be some standalone research related posts as well. So in case you are planning to go into academia as a career, that is something you can do.
But sir, don't you think that someone who holds a postgraduate degree in said field would be preferred for a job at a managerial level?
Well, that depends on what kind of job you are looking for. Definitely someone with postgraduate experience will be preferred in a specialty specific management job. But there are often job openings which require a bunch of other things as well. So if you're an MBBS and you have done something else, I have a few colleagues who moved on after their MBBS and pursued LLB, which is a law degree. There is one person who has done a master's in hospital administration. There is another one who has done something on the lines of medical legal sort of documentation. It was a 2-year course based on medical legal documentation, which is not a law course, and it is not a course based on it's not a course leading to a membership of the Bar Association. So these are things which you can do. Surely, so someone with an MBBS and some kind of a future degree will of course be preferred. There are some jobs at the end of plain MBBS as well, and there are some jobs which require some other degrees as well. So,
So tell me if I understand this correctly, and I'm just thinking out loud. Suppose there's a student who is okay in studies, he or she is smart, very good with people, was probably the CR or the cultural secretary and arranged an entire festival, got talking to financial sponsors, etc., etc. And now we're looking at a student who actually finds all of this more exciting, all the action of dealing with people, and finds all of this more exciting than sitting and giving an exam. Would that person be more suited after MBBS to pursue an MBA instead of going into a postgraduate clinical field? And would that person, because the whole point of management is understanding and handling human psychology, would this person be okay doing MBBS, MBA, or would you still want them to first get the postgrad and then do an added MBA?
well, again, entirely dependent on that specific person. But in the case of the example that you gave, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going on to an MBA or any kind of a management degree after your MBBS, because that is definitely something you can do. Now, I might sound very old school while saying this, but this is something that we have probably heard from the generation above us, and that is that um, what we used to hear was "Doctor ban jao, life set ho jayegi." Now, I mean,
We've been
yeah,
hearing it.
yeah, I mean, some things don't grow old, unlike us. But anyway, so the thing is, I'm not sure about the whole life set part, but what I can affirm is that MBBS is one of the few degrees where the versatility does not end after the degree, and you still have a whole lot of flexibility, a whole lot of versatility, and the world is still as much your oyster as it was when you passed your 12th standard. So that is something.
Beautiful. I just like said like that to all the three cameras. So now, because a lot of people seem lost right now, and rightly so. We all were at that age.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the students, they really want to do something. They do, but it's a little difficult to choose because you can do a couple of things, right? And for me, one of the most important things that I've realized is you don't necessarily have to be super passionate about something and pursue it. You also have to think about availability, economics, what's going to be trending a few years down the lane. And at the end of the day, my personal opinion, and this is quite controversial, but if you really, really are passionate about something, I think you should not make it your job, because once it becomes your job, the passion is going to eventually wean out because you're going to be doing it every day. So if I find something very, very exciting like music, I'd rather not make it my full-time job. I like to come back to something that is different than what I'm doing in the day, right? And eventually these fields do start merging. So don't completely go crazy about, follow your heart and all. Come on, like follow your brain and then put a little bit of heart in there. That's what it's all about, right? Mix the little bit of creative and artistic side with your scientific and practical side. I think that's important.
I agree with you. Always have the dopamine in a short-sized glass than having a cup of it every morning.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Well said, very well said.
Well said. That's going to be a reel.
Yeah, that's going to be a reel.
Okay, next question.
Okay, does surgical oncology have a good prospect in India? And after super specialization in oncology, do we need more specialization, such as orthopedic oncology or pediatric oncology?
Okay, so one of the nicer and more specific questions, and it's good to always have a specific goal-directed question.
Comment with a fire if you were the one who asked that question.
Yes, we shall.
Getting some, getting that response while vibe.
Yeah, we shall get back to you if you ask this question. But yes, so surgical oncology is it's actually a fairly well-developed branch in India. We have, of course, Tata Hospital in Mumbai, which is probably one of the best places in the continent, if not in the world.
You did a fellowship there, man?
Yes, I was lucky enough to work there for a month and a half. So
I got fancy friends.
So that was something which I'm really grateful for to have experienced during the years of my training. That being said, surgical oncology is definitely something which has. Did the question say something about scope of surgical oncology? What did the question say again?
It's
have a good prospect in India. That's fine. So yes, definitely good prospects in terms of there are a lot of opportunities to do good quality work, which actually translates to bettering people's lives on the ground. And cancer is I wouldn't say it's the new pandemic, but it's definitely one of the rapidly progressive kind of things that we are facing in the country, and definitely there are a lot of opportunities. Now, as far as the specialization part of things go, there are fellowships and super specialization degree options available. So some of these, such as musculoskeletal oncology, gynae and breast oncology, gastrointestinal, are established super specialization pathways, and there are some of them which are fellowships. But definitely after pursuing a certain amount of experience in oncology, you can further narrow down into a laser sharp focus on what you want. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So let's take a small break, play some music, and then if you're still hooked onto this, there's a second part of the same episode that will come out after a few days. You can post in some of your questions here, and we'll definitely get back to you. We'll see you in part 2. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you think this is the kind of stuff that needs to be heard, please share it with your friends. Check out our social media handles below. Okay, it's music time. So I have forced Shivangi into joining me on this song. Before I start, I wanted to speak a little bit about the sponsors of this episode. And it's an AI-based review of literature app called Elicit. You can check them out on elicit.com. That's elicit.com. You'll find a referral code in the link in bio, and if you click on that, you will get 5,000 credits extra if you buy the paid version. And before you hurry into buying the paid version, I'd like you to try the free version. It's quite okay for starters, and what you get to do is you use artificial intelligence to screen through multiple papers for you, and it spits out a beautiful review of literature table where there'll be columns like introduction, methodology, study design, sample size, and you can add more columns if you want. And this is a great way to get a quick view of all the various literature before starting to fine tune. I'd obviously suggest you to eventually do it the old fashioned way, because that's how it works for me. But Shivangi and I were working on an episode on protein intake for the podcast, and we really loved it, and it was really cool. So I think it's the new world. I think it's a new way of doing a review of literature. So do give it a shot. And if you really love it, I think they charge you roughly $1,000 a month. I say roughly because it's in American dollars. They're all the information on their page. So just do the conversion. And it's about $10,000 if you buy a yearly membership. And every time you buy it through my reference code, you basically get 5,000 credits extra. That's like another month of free using that tool. So it's pretty cool. Elicit makes these cool YouTube videos that you can check out, which can act as your tutorials to, navigate through this cool app. So that's Elicit for you. Do check it out. And the song that I'm forcing Shivangi to sing along with me is a song that I wrote when I was in third year. So kind of the same stage where you are right now, a year younger. And it's called Paisa Vasool, and it speaks about the medical student life. So I hope you relate with it. I go to medical school. The chicks say it ain't so cool. They're all fools.
Just 'cause I gotta study all day does not mean I got no time to play. So F you.
My brain is like an awesome tool. You thought to make a nap, but they got kaboo. And one day this hard work's gonna pay, and we'll be singing Paisa Vasool, Paisa Vasool. Woo! 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 Medical school. Woo! 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 Medical school. Paisa Vasool. But then it goes like, first year, but I forget my own lyrics. How cool is that? First year, but a confusing time. And that biochem confusion time was kinda tough. Exams ke pehle humne khola balani. Agle din papers aur aankhon mein pani. It was rough. But we felt like never before. That what was starting got a decent score. And one day this hard work's gonna pay, and we'll be singing Paisa Vasool, Paisa Vasool. Woo! 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 Medical school. Woo! Medical school. Paisa Vasool. Okay, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that song. It took me back to my medical school days, which were not my best, let me tell you that. It gets better. Contrary to popular belief, it does get better. Like Prateek said in the beginning of the podcast. Thank you so much. I hope you guys are enjoying the episode so far. And please, I'll see you in episode number 2. Check out Elicit, share, subscribe, bell notifications, blah, 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 all that cool stuff that people are supposed to do. Please do it. And I'll see you in episode number 2, back with Prateek. Peace out. How do you do that? Peace out. What's that? Yeah, she's really embarrassed on being here. Okay, thank you. All right. If you like what you hear, please support the Kosm team by liking, sharing, following, and or subscribing to Kosm. That's CALLOSM on Instagram and YouTube. You can also check out all episodes on sunitzadav.com/Kalosm. That's sunitzadav.com/CALLOSM. Thank you so much for your time and happy listening.